Hey, sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to my Sunday locker room show over on Locker Room, and we're doing it simulcasting on YouTube as well. And of course, we're getting this weird thing on the screen, but at least it's on there, and you'll be able to at least hear people, I believe, calling in. This is the point of this happening. So just ignore the old send feedback thing if you're on YouTube, and otherwise, hopefully this is working, and maybe Ethan can let me know this is actually listening to me despite this. And so anyway, welcome. Another Sunday, another great day of basketball to go through. Lots of fun things to talk about. We also have some guests I kind of arranged to come on, so I'm excited about that. Andy, what's up? What's up, Andy? Good to see you. Well, we're in a discussion on the Locker Room app, and if you want to be part of this, all you got to do is download the Locker Room app on the iPhone and join me, and you can actually request to come on the show, and we can talk. So we'll have Warren Shaw coming up in a minute, a buddy of mine, a friend of the Breakdown, who knows his stuff about the NBA, and we'll talk about the Suns coming up too with Dave King, who covers the Suns for a long time, who's covered them over at SB Nation. So I wonder why the app is liking to do this, but I think it's working out okay and everyone can hear me. Is that correct? I'll go over to the YouTube side and check to make sure we sound good there. Let me know. Awesome. Okay, and again, if you want to if you come on, if you're over on YouTube, jump on the app and download it. But thank you, Ivan. It looks like a super chat, wow, or a new member as well to the YouTube membership. Don't forget, there's a brand new membership. I'm launching a new video very soon with that interview I did with me and Drew Hanlon, which is a must listen to for any NBA fan, and what the latest skills we're seeing from the NBA players and how it's evolved. Terrific conversation. So make sure that you check that out if you sign up for either the big man or the point guard tiers on my YouTube membership. So let's get into it while we're kind of waiting here. We're going to get some speaker requests at some point. I know Warren's going to come on in a minute, but speak of the devil, let's see if that's Warren. Oh no, it's Maxwell. Let's get Maxwell in here first and see how what he has to say. What's up, Maxwell?
Hey Nick, how's it going today? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Can't really complain. I just wanted to kind of throw this out there. It's been about a 5-game sample size, so 5-6 game sample size so far. But I just kind of wanted to get your thought. I don't know how many Hornets games you've got to watch, but your early thoughts on LaMelo, and I guess I think some of the other rookies have also kind of impressed early to start, but. Wanted to start the conversation off with LaMelo, obviously, because I'm a Hornets fan, but, any of the other rookies, too, if you want to just give your early thoughts on how they're doing.
Sure. Great questions. And we talked a little bit about LaMelo, I think, in the last show as well. So I want to quickly get to that answer, and then I got to bring on Warren, who's waiting patiently, too. So I'll take that question. So here we go. As far as LaMelo goes, again, the passing is just out of this world, really creative, really exciting to see a rookie not be intimidated to not throw those passes. So that's great, a great sign for him. I think he's probably on the same kind of trajectory as his brother was as far as getting comfortable with the NBA. And as soon as that happens, we're going to see him shoot a lot better and actually score better. So that's the key there. But I don't think the Charlotte Hornets are incentivized to do so much winning this year anyway. So I don't know how they're going to do this and play this and just sort of like they're going to give him the reins. He'll be able to play a lot of minutes, which is great, and let him make mistakes and learn that way. So that'll be a good way to see. But I'm not worried about LaMelo at all. I think he's going to be an all-star. All righty.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. All right, great. Well, let's bring on Warren, because I know he's here for us, and we set this up. We want to talk a little bit about the NBA. So, Warren, how's it going, my man?
My dude, Coach Nick. It's so great to be with you, brother. How are you, fam?
I'm great. On a Sunday morning. Awesome to have you with me to talk some NBA. Everything good on your end these days? You're over on the East Coast somewhere.
Yes, sir. In the South Florida area, we are. Florida's always an interesting place. But
yeah.
We're hanging in all right.
I hear you. That's rough. It's rough everywhere. It's rough in LA. It's rough here. So let's get into it, man. I mean, let's see. What do we want to talk about? I know we discussed this a little bit beforehand, but what are we thinking here to start off with?
Well, I'd even actually answer your boy's question here, Maxwell. I mean, I think LaMelo is great. I think one of my favorite rookies thus far, and I think maybe even you tweeted about him a little bit, was Tyrese Halliburton. That dude just has a great basketball IQ. And I think he's going to be probably one of the most impactful rookies of this class. And I think a lot of teams are going to be upset that they let him slip as far as he did to Sacramento, bro.
Oh, I know. Well, here's this weird thing because he had been tweeting about his jump shot in the form, and I hadn't really looked at it. I guess I don't remember because I just saw him make one. He's been making them. It's pretty ugly though, and I don't know. I mean, they're open, the ones he's making, so I don't know how well that's going to happen if you're going to adjust to that and try and disrupt him a little bit because it's a lot of airspace, whatever. But the other part of it, though, I love the guy. I mean, he is what I mentioned in that tweet was he just seems to have that knack that some players tend to have, which would be he's in the right place at the right time, right? It's like, I don't know how you can teach that. And he certainly looks like a guy who's got a lot more experience than a rookie.
Yeah. I don't think you can dispute that. I mean, Darren Fox came out and said the same thing. It's like they're really relying on him. I don't know the stat. I don't know if you tweeted or somebody had tweeted it that I think he's leading in fourth quarter minutes already. Definitely for rookies, but maybe even amongst the league leaders in the league right now. And just again, high basketball IQ. I agree that jumper is not sexy, but he's making it work. And Sacramento is off to a decent start at 3-3.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think they were 3-1, so it's we were starting. I was scratching my head saying, "Oh, we're going to get something here," but it would be nice to see Sacramento, but again, I don't think that they're incentivized to win a lot of games this year anyway, right? I mean, I think they're looking at the landscape and thinking, we're not going to beat the Lakers, we're not going to beat, the Clippers or anybody else in the top in the West. So why not just let this run and give all the rookies as much time as we can?
Did you see the thing about Bagley though yesterday and his dad? It's such an interesting situation in Sacramento. We actually had Bobby Jackson on our show earlier or before the bubble, so much earlier last year, I guess now, and they were really excited about their opportunities and what Bagley was going to be able to do and what they thought Sacramento can be as a unit. So I'm interested to see what they do think about their chances in the Western Conference. It's supposed to be a loaded draft class. I'm not a big draft guy, so I don't want to make any prognostications there, but I think Sacramento feels like they are a competitive team. They just paid Fox a lot of money. He should feel like he's the man now that Bogdanovich has been moved on. And again, you have the situation with Bagley, who they're also trying to develop. So I think it's kind of a tweener year for them, but I think they still want to be competitive and maybe even make the play-in tournament. Whether that is the right thing to do or not, that remains to be seen. But Sacramento definitely has a lot of hope.
I hear you. And also, I mean, Luke Walton would probably be a little bit impatient as well, would not want to sit through another season like he did last year. Marvin Bagley was on my list of players who was going to break out this year, and he does not look good at all. I don't know what is going on there, but he's not finishing well. He's not handling the ball well. And that's a frustrating thing because I get excited about these players and I'm like, I want them to do well so I could do the video on them. And then I've been looking through some of his footage. I don't know what's going on there. Have you been paying attention to his play?
Yeah, a little bit here and there. I think it starts, with his effort. He's a very active guy, but it doesn't necessarily result in positive results. So I think he's still learning to kind of play even within his body a little bit in some aspects. And I also feel like, again, he's not having the same foul trouble and stuff like that he was in his earlier career, but something is just not clicking there. And then Walton is not trusting him in the late games in the fourth quarter, so he's not getting those minutes, as why his dad tweeted out, especially in the last two games. So, but he's the guy too I was looking at. We have a section or a segment called Hoops Redemption, and we thought Bagley could be a candidate for that too, to definitely bounce back and have a great year. But it's off to a rough start, despite the 13-9 that I think he put up yesterday. For sure.
Well, we'll have to keep our eye on that one. Who else do we want to talk about while we have you here?
Well, I mean, let's talk a little Boston. Not necessarily, obviously not a rookie conversation, although they do have a nice rookie in Peyton Pritchard. But Boston, to me, has looked very mediocre to begin the year. And I know it's early. Whatever it is, 12, 13 days in, I don't know. But I'm a little concerned while Jaylen Brown has looked great. I know I saw your great conversation about potentially liking Jaylen a little bit more than Jason. Celtics Twitter is ablaze with that conversation for sure. But to me, they don't have enough wing depth right now. Teague and Thompson are still obviously filling things out for them. And they don't have enough bench depth in general. Tice and Robert Williams, again, decent dudes, but they're really just struggling to stop people at times, and they're turning the ball over, as evidenced by that last game against Detroit. I think it was Friday night. For sure.
I took over a locker room discussion yesterday between Ben Golliver and Trudell because I was wondering about Marcus Smart. And so, so the first thing you mentioned was I've tweeted that I think I like Brown better than I like Tatum.
Tatum.
I think he's got more. He plays within himself more, so as a result, he might not have all the amazing plays that Tatum does get, but he also is more steady, and he can then help the team more. But my issue, I think, with them, my spider sense that keeps tingling when I watch this game, them play, is Marcus Smart. And it really is it's shaping up to me to be one of those same discussions I had with Bucks fans for over 2 years about Bledsoe. And they're fans, I get it, so they don't really want to look at it, in a negative light on one of their players, but there's something about the way Marcus Smart plays. It's decision making. It's the shots he takes. Listen, he is a good defender and does give out more than anybody in the league on that end, but he also can get out of position. So I just think that if he's the guy you're going to rely on a lot, and he feels like he's going to end up taking some of those shots in the fourth quarter too, I think that ultimately might hold them back. And I'm willing to change my mind if somebody could give me a really good argument for it. What do you think?
It's funny you mentioned that because I'm tied to Celtics Twitter and they love Marcus Smart. He's Mr. Intangibles. He does a lot of great things on the defensive side. And one of the things he came into this year talking about was his decision making. He realizes that his shot selection has not been the greatest in years past. He makes one or two, that means he's going to take 4, 5, or 6. And that usually is probably the worst thing, I think, for Boston's offense when that happens. But he's the ultimate no, yes guy. At the same time, Danny Ainge has this tie to him. And I feel like if there's something that could become available for Boston, this would be the year to do it, although he is kind of the heart of that team and that roster. I don't know how you feel about that stuff. I know Ainge doesn't necessarily care about it as much, but sometimes the players do. When you trade guys that are integral parts to that and have been there, now he's the longest tenured Celtic, that might rub some of the other guys the wrong way.
That's really, really interesting because wait, you didn't mention rubbing the wrong guys the wrong way when we're talking about Hayward, are you? Did you? Because that same thing could have existed then. He played for Stevens in college, and he comes in, and they're all looking at him going, well, he's going to be all the favorite, right? It didn't work out for whatever reason, but I was always wondering if that dynamic hurt Hayward more than it needed to or should have, fairly or unfairly.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I mean, I just think it's the injuries more than anything else. Hayward was productive, especially last year when he was not hurt. Then he came back in the bubble, was hobbled, and just didn't look like himself. And he's off to a decent start, even in Charlotte right now. He got secured his back. Got $30 million a year. Is running around with LaMelo, Terry Rozier, and Devontae Graham and such. So I think he still has a lot more basketball to play. But the Boston situation is just didn't work out. And part of his downward spiral, if you will, is attributed to the whole Kyrie Irving era as well too, which was just a disaster for Boston. So that rubbed everybody the wrong way, I think, within the Celtics organization.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, I do feel like the guy who's going to be on the hot seat eventually could be Brad Stevens if they don't go farther than they've been before, which is the conference finals. But I would think that anything less than that this year would put him on the hot seat. What do you think?
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of people think he should already be there or he should be gone. Celtics Twitter is volatile, as most NBA Twitter bases are volatile anyway. But I do believe I agree with you there. He's gotten to a certain peak, and now he's got to get to the pinnacle of what it means to be a great basketball coach. A lot of praise was heaped upon him to begin his career, and I think in some ways deserved, and maybe some undeservingly as well. But he has to take ownership of what he did and didn't do, I think, in the Kyrie days and what's going on now. And now with Boston, they have to worry about a Brooklyn team that's gotten better, a Philadelphia team that looks more motivated under Doc Rivers, in the early part of the season. Milwaukee still has something to say about things as well. Indiana looks good with their new coach. So the window for Boston may have closed, for Stevens to kind of reach the pinnacle, but we have to definitely see how the season plays out.
For sure. I agree. I think the Nets have closed it for everybody for the next 2 or 3 years, provided they're healthy. So that's a tough one for all those guys, Milwaukee included. So great points. Warren, awesome to have you on and discuss this stuff. And please, will you come on again?
Absolutely, Coach Nick. I'm with you anytime, brother. I'm going to be tuned in to the rest of the show as well.
Oh.
And I appreciate so much of this opportunity.
Awesome. Well, tell everybody, by the way, that you are where you are, we can find you.
Absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at ShawSportsNBA. Follow our podcast at NBA Baseline. Follow my great co-host, Kali, at GameFaceLee. All common spelling. love to have some conversation with you. Maybe we'll get a locker room channel of our own someday too. Thanks so much, Coach Nick.
You got it. Talk to you soon, man. Thanks. All righty. Great stuff. Definitely follow Warren over on Twitter. Hey, we have a new member again. So this is cool. If you sign up as a member during the chat, it lets me know and I can give you a big shout out. So Ivan567 is a new big man. Thank you so much. And Let Him Eat Cake is also a point guard. So nice. Remember, we have 3 tiers. The first tier is you get emojis and also notifications for videos a little bit earlier than everybody else. And then above that is point guard, which was live shows and things like that, like we're doing here, but we'll do exclusive ones for you guys. And then the big man is we do watch parties. So you'll be able to come in and we'll watch games together over on Hot Mic, which is a great way to experience the game, and it syncs everything up. So we can do a whole lot of things, and then also exclusive interviews I'll do with other people like Jared Weiss over at The Athletic about the NBA, and also, Drew Hanlon, for instance, is one's coming up. I'll post it I got it in the can. I'll post it, maybe tomorrow, first thing. So we'll be doing a lot of that all year long. So make sure you check out the subscription, the membership over on YouTube. And meanwhile, we're over on the Locker Room app. And I know that at some point soon, we're going to get Dave King to come on here and discuss the Suns. I'm doing a video right now. And I might even just start to talk about them while we're waiting because it's on my mind. I've been watching, I don't know, people probably ask me, well, how much footage do you actually watch when you're going to do a video? So, for instance, this morning I must have spent, I don't know, 2 hours looking at Suns footage. I don't know if it's 2 hours, maybe a little less, but I probably have watched, 300 clips so far, So, and it's hard because you're looking at a team, and here's some insight into how I do these videos. Basically, it's like, okay, where do you start? How do you figure out what to cover? Because listen, there are times when I publish that thing, I'm so excited, and I'm like, oh my God, I missed 5 amazing points I didn't cover at all, and you realize later, and it's frustrating. So, but then again, a lot of times it's a rabbit hole, and you can't get stuck in the weeds and waste a lot of time down the wrong paths. So, Sean Steo, thank you so much, a super chat, and he wants to get in here with a good question about Milwaukee. So I guess we'll finish that because we might as well give some priority to anybody who wants to do a super chat. So Sean, thank you so much. His question is, seeing the way Giannis has been used defensively in Milwaukee, would it be worthwhile to move him to play at the 5? Absolutely, and I think he is playing at the 5 to some degree. I mean, if we do a quick look over on the stats on B-Ball Reference, they should have that in the positional side. They do have those stats. Let me just scroll down here real quick, and I'll tell you if they've been playing with the 5 at all. Wait, where is it? Here it is. So Giannis has been playing 40% of the time at center, according to B-Ball Ref. And it's unclear to me exactly how they ascertain that, but that sounds good to me. For sure, you'd want him playing center a lot and going small ball that way, and maybe even mitigating some of his issues of not being able to shoot. They don't want to. I don't even want to see him on the line at this point because of the way he's shooting free throws. Although now that I'm saying that, let me make sure that his free throw percentage is at 60%, and he's taking over 10 a game, which is just you can't have an MVP player who is so limited outside of the paint or limited outside of 5 feet. You can't. And if he's not going to shoot free throws well, then they're going to put him on the line in the playoffs. So it's a real problem, and his numbers are not nearly as close as what they used to be last year. Now, Drew Holiday, they're breaking him in, and it's a different team with Bobby Portis as well. So this Bucks team is a conundrum. I like the Augustine addition, so I thought that was going to be something that would really help them. In fact, he's not really been contributing a whole lot at all. And I thought Bryn Forbes was going to be another one of those. So here's the thing, I guess, that Budenholzer is going to have to figure out is rotations, and it might take him 10, 15 games. So I would say after about 15 games, if he's gotten that all ready to go, then I would say what? Then they'll take off. If they don't take off, be a little bit concerned. Dave is trying to say he's inside the speaker request room, but I don't see him as a speaker request. Why is that? Let me just quickly send him a message while we're talking because we definitely want Dave in here. It does. App says I'm on your wait list right now. It does? I wonder if let me see if I can bring him in. If I can see. Here it is. I got it. Let's try this way. Invite to speak. Now what happens? See, this is fun. The Locker Room app has different ways to bring people in. So just, you never know. Maybe I'll just call on you and see if you take the invitation. So let's see if he accepts it. Okay, Dave. Just invited you. Live YouTube. Welcome to dealing with weird stuff that happens on this app. And then he disappeared. He's not in the room anymore. Wow. Now it says you're gone. Now it says you're not in the room. Uh-oh. I wonder if I have another way of bringing him on. I could do this. But, you know what? It wouldn't be in locker room then. Another way to do this. Let's see here. Well, listen, if you guys want to bear with me for 1 second, I'm going to open up a little thing here, and I'm going to give him a link, and we'll just bring him in on YouTube. What do you say? Let's see here. Click the copy and move this over here. Again, thank you for bearing with me for 1 second. I'm live on YouTube, live on Locker Room, because we might as well, see if we can get this to work. Although, wait, is Dave here? No, he's still not. Oh, yes, he is. Invite to speak. Let's try that. Now, what happens? Come on, Dave. I know you can do it. Okay. I guess that's not working. Okay. Let's bring him in on the YouTube side, because we might as well get some information, because I want to talk Suns as it is. So let's do this. Let's hopefully he can handle that if he can. Let's see if he pops up in my rendezvous over on the Wirecast side, and I'll bring him in, and he'll be on video. So that'll be cool. Although I better set that up. But nonetheless, we can do it while I'm talking. So what were we talking about? We're talking about the Suns. We're talking about how I do these things. So yeah, I was probably watching a couple hundred clips at least so far. And what you end up kind of focusing in on is I figured, let's just choose 3 things to look at for the Suns. So you'll see this in tomorrow's video, which would basically be, what's the first thing? Defense. So their defense is terrific. They're really harassing a lot of teams. They had a couple games there where they held teams below 100 points, which is unheard of these days in the NBA. And so you start fishing around on the, in the stats and looking around, okay, what's going on? I mean, obviously they play pick and rolls most of the time or more than anything else. Okay, let's look at pick and rolls. Let's figure out who's doing what and how and where. And what becomes clear when you watch enough possessions of pick and roll defense for the Suns, that it's Mikal Bridges is the guy that's dismantling the offense by himself practically. So what they're doing is they're putting him on the main ball handler of the team. Because here's what I would say is the team's going to want to have to go away from, Mikal Bridges as much as possible, not have him involved on the ball handler in the pick and roll. But the genius of the Suns is that they can just put him on the guy they want to run the pick and roll most. Hang on. Let me just tell Dave real quick. Okay. Okay. So Mikal Bridges is a guy who is literally just picking up the main ball handler. And here's the thing, though, is if they try and do some sort of switch, the offense, where they do a handoff or something to get that switch and get Mikal off of him, well, then you got guys like Jay Crowder out there, Javon Carter out there. If he's playing, is also locked down on the ball. He's really just a bulldog. And they have a couple other guys in there that can actually be very effective. Chris Paul, for instance, on the ball as well. So you talk about Mikal Bridges and Chris Paul being on the ball handler as much as possible, and that's just really making it problematic for teams. Now, there might be ways to figure that out and get better pistol action, ball handoffs into ball screens, dribble handoffs into ball screens. But right now, what we're seeing is Mikal Bridges. He's getting around screens, and if he's behind where they get him off of the ball and he's starting to go downhill, the big is sagging to invite the mid-range. And if the mid-range is taken, Mikal Bridges has got like a 7'1" wingspan, and the dude's like 6'6". So he's so long that he's very disruptive and doesn't give up. And there's plenty of footage I'm going to show you of him just sort of disrupting it by his effort alone. So that's going to be a problem for any team, because that's the kind of guy you're going to want to put out there. Now, can he do that against like LeBron? I don't think he's physical enough to do that yet in his career. But for a lot of the other like perimeter guys who want to score that way, he'll be really good at disrupting that. So that's the point of attack that they can use defensively. It's been giving them a lot of great benefit. By the way, Devin Booker, the guy I've also noticed, and I guess maybe Dave is not going to come on the Wirecast. Let's see here. Let me check. Okay. He said, I downloaded the app, and the link just opens the app. It doesn't connect anything. Okay, that's interesting. Maybe click the link one more time. Let's see what happens here. Because I would love to hear Dave. It's not... Okay. So I guess we'll see. I don't know if Dave's going to be able to come in here. But if he doesn't, I'll just keep going on my Suns stock. Because Devin Booker, by the way, his numbers are down, although he's shooting well from the field goal percentage range and the two-pointers. But that said, he's really playing terribly. I have to tell you, especially for his standards of a Booker, he is leading the league by far on turnover percentage in most of the categories he's in. And he's just throwing the ball away. Most of them are off passes, but there are also a number of like offensive charges where he's just getting his chicken wing out there and just getting stripped a little bit. But most of the time, it's passing. So the good news for Suns fans is that will clear itself up. He's turning the ball over twice as much as he had in the last couple of years, and that's going to settle down. He's got Chris Paul on the team now, so I suspect. Let's see here. Yeah, that's so weird. It's not giving me that. Well, we'll have to figure it out. Sorry, Dave King is now DMing me and telling me he can't get into the locker room thing. Okay. Wow, I wonder if there's anybody else in there. Anyhow, it worked before with Warren at least. I don't know what happened, but it's probably because of this weird thing that's coming up that keeps popping up that you can see on YouTube. Oh, well, we'll figure it out for maybe on Wednesday. At any rate, so Booker is turning the ball over way too much, and he will cut that down, I imagine. He's never really been an elite shooter, which is weird because his form looks fine to me. I would think he'd be closer to like 38, 39% from three, but he's generally around the 35% range. And he's certainly gotten, off some open shots he's just not knocking down either. I discovered some set they really kind of got fixated on, at least in one of the games, where they set a pin down for him on the low block, on the left block, and he tries to do sort of a Kobe pinch post catch, and they kind of isolate like a Michael Jordan Kobe thing. And it's just not really working out well at all for him. And he seems indecisive. Most of those possessions, and there's probably like 5 or 6 of them, and which is a lot in the young season when you're looking at patterns here. It was the most often thing that they ran for him. And that's not working nearly as well. What works for him, obviously, is coming off of screens, coming off of curls, coming off of handoffs, spotting up, and then breaking the man down that way, which means that Chris Paul should be running more pick and rolls. As it is right now with the synergy thing, wow, it looks like the locker room thing just gave up on me. Or at least on the way to the YouTube thing. Maybe I'll get rid of it here and we'll just deal. Let's do that, and then let's do this. Okay, so we have, so what would work with Booker the best? So I think that with Chris Paul on the team now, what they haven't quite figured out yet is the hierarchy of pick and roll. So they're both running about the same amount across the team, which is just someone needs to do it more often. And I think it obviously has to be Chris Paul, who's not even doing it that well either in terms of points per possession. But we know that he will also get settled and figure out his teammates and figure out how to make them as better than they would normally be. So it's a question of getting that settled in. So I would cut Booker's pick and rolls down and let Chris Paul have more of them, and then let Booker be that traditional off guard now. He doesn't need to be the lead guard like he did in the past with other teams that weren't nearly as good on the Suns, but it's growing pains. They're going to have to figure that one out. But if they can do that, then you'll see his scoring go back up. You'll see his turnovers get cut down. And if they can just sort of whittle away a couple of those actions that they're running for him that don't really work, but that's what the season's for in the beginning anyway, to kind of figure it out. Let's see let's play with it. Let's find out. So I think that option, if they watch my video, might go out the window at some point, and they won't need him to do that just because they can generate offense from a lot of other players. If you look at how balanced the scoring is in the Suns, it's really impressive. They got, I want to say, 6 players averaging double figures, which it would be easy to be accurate just by clicking on the Suns page, which is, where did my Suns page go? Is it here? Are you one of those guys that has, like 5 windows and each window has, 20 different tabs open? But if you're looking at it, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They got 6 players averaging double figures in points, which is great and nice, really varied. From Devin Booker, who is leading the team at 20.5, but and he's actually shooting, for him, he's shooting well overall at 49%, but his 3-point percentage is at 34, and he's almost at six a game. That's just too low for a guy like him, I think. He should be 37, right in that sweet spot of like the average across the league. And I think that will go up once he gets set up with CP3 better. Mikal Bridges is having a career year at 15 points a game as well. And he's shooting 50% from 3 on 6 attempts. So I wouldn't have thought he'd be the guy to be the high volume 50% 3-point shooter of all the guys in the league. That it will happen one of these days, but as it is now, I think it's going to be he'll probably settle down. But if you do look at the stats, you'll see that the Suns shoot the most corner threes. And that could also change. I went through the footage and looked at all the corner threes they've made and wondering, okay, are they doing anything very specific? And obviously, when you lure teams to help one pass away, you're going to get open threes in the corner. So don't do that, and yet the teams still do that, especially if it's off the corner. And they've been good at finding them. There are a couple times when they have skipped to find them and get those threes. And Mikal Bridges is benefiting the most. I think he's made 10 corner threes already this year in 6 games. So I would anticipate, because remember, corner threes generally are open because if you're going to be able to catch the ball at that position there, then you're open, and you can get the catch and shoot versus other areas of the floor where you could be closing out from two different sides versus the corner only one. So the act of actually making a pass from the middle or maybe even from the wing to the corner generally means the defense is scrambled and they're not in position and you're going to be open on that catch, or else they're not throwing it to you. So right now, Mikal Bridges is definitely, maximizing that to the nth degree. So, because he's made, let's see here, he's made 18. I think 10 of them have been corner threes for the season. So we're going to look at that as well and how they're generating the corner threes, because obviously that's going to be a big issue, especially in the regular season, how to continue to do that. The only problem is that dries up a bit in the playoffs as teams are better and they don't help off the corners like that so much. So let's go check in on the live stream. How are we doing? Oh, excuse me, Blue Diamond Gem. Thank you so much for the super chat. I missed it. Forgive me. Why does OKC keep winning them when the goal is losing? That's a great question. I certainly think OKC is incentivized right now to not win. Right? They want to make sure that they can get a high draft choice and develop some players. But it's interesting. It's not necessarily easy to understand that. I haven't gotten my eyes too much on them yet, but let's look at the standings. I'm kind of curious right now where they stand. And we have someone who wants to come on the show. All right, so that seems to be working, although I don't know why it didn't work with Dave, but let's try this. Let's bring in Daniel. We'll put a pin in that one. We'll come back to OKC in a minute. But let's see. Daniel, what's happening, my man?
Good morning, Coach. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I was just asking about, I heard about Oklahoma City. I was like, jumping in. What do you think about Bazley so far this season?
I liked him when I did my scouting for him when he was coming into for the draft. But I haven't gotten a chance to watch him too much. So if you want to jump in on the stats alone, and you're looking at 11 points a game, and he's starting, which is nice. He seems to be filling up. So I'll tell you, I'll turn it over to you. What do you think about him and how he's playing?
So far, from what I've seen, what's good so far is we've got 3 young guys in our starting 5, and then George Hill and Al Horford, who have all bought into our offense. Last year, we had Chris Paul leading the helm, and we had Adams, and we ran that the offense to the high post. This year, our coach is running a very similar offense where we get it down to Al Horford, we get cutters, and then handoffs, right? And for guys that are 21, 22, and 20 to be buying into an offense like that is a really, really good sign. Especially someone like Bazley, who apparently, from what I heard from the team, had maturity issues all last year until the bubble. He had a really good bubble where he shot, I think, decent from 3. I don't have stats in front of me. And then coming into this season, if Shea doesn't end up having a good game, right now it's either one of those three young guys will have a good game. And so Baisley looks like he can be one of those secondary ball handlers at power forward. I'd love to see him get some center minutes, although I doubt that would happen. And, I just think he's been really, really good. I think Oklahoma City's starting five is way too good to tank, but their bench is so bad.
For sure. And by the way, I've been seeing on Twitter, but I got to get my eyeballs on this, is Dort has been shooting lights out from three, which... and by the way, I'm willing to bet that it's because he's wide open, because there's like, please shoot him. But there's work that he did, it sounds like. And if he's going to shoot lights out wide open and they start to guard him, then then it'll probably come back down a little bit. But that's the point, right? Is that they now have to guard him.
Yeah, he was shooting really, really well. He looks like he is not doing that thing where he's trying to jump so high off the ground and then release it while he's coming, on the way down, that almost like the Russell Westbrook way. He's more shooting it on the way up, from what I can see. I've seen almost every game. Against Orlando at Orlando, his shot wasn't falling, but what he was doing he was actually driving a lot more, which is really, really good to see. Even though his shot wasn't falling, he was making some good decisions. And you can see the impact that, again, like having an offense that where if you're young guys, when they've bought in, they're just so much, there's so much confidence there that they can do some good things. And I think that we would trade George Hill in an instant, and I've heard Brooklyn's interested.
Yeah, well, now they got to deal with the loss of Spencer Dinwiddie. That wouldn't be a bad pickup for them. And by the way, the question was, why are they winning? Their record's 2-3, so it's not like they're winning, right now a ton. But they are. I would suspect people would have thought this would have been, a 1-20 start, and then they're tanking and whatever. But you're right. Enough of this mixture of the team is they're going to be competitive until they're not, which would be, guys resting in weird ways where you're like, why, and that kind of thing that would help them mitigate wins. That said, if you notice, I made a big deal about the Suns having 6 guys averaging double figures. Well, the Thunder have 7 guys averaging double figures, which is pretty amazing.
I also think, the most important part about, especially for guys like Alexei Pokusevski, having such a decent team, is that in all of our games, where we've won or lost, it's actually been pretty close. Our biggest loss was to Orlando. That was by double digits. And then the rest of them all were within single digits, wins and losses. We had the game winner at Charlotte for our first win. So I think even though, whether we win or lose those games, I think that having that experience will really, really help, especially that guy, Melodon is playing really well too, especially those two. And then it'll help our Horford's trade value as well. So for all those OKC fans, we've got a lot to be happy about.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, awesome stuff, Daniel. Thank you for breaking it down for me. I promise I will get my eyeballs on some more OKC footage by next week.
No worries.
All right. Take care. All right. Let's move on to the next topic of the conversation, which, let's see here. Let's go into the YouTube stream because I feel like there's some good questions there. People want me to do a video on the Sixers, I see. Davi is asking in all caps, so I could do that. I know people want to talk about the Nets a little bit. Now, the Nets are interesting because they've taken a little bit of a dive. Let me just make sure to grab that because I know they are now 3-3. And I believe is that 3 straight losses? Let's see here. No, it's not. It was 3 out of the last 4 they've lost. With an overtime loss in Memphis there in the midst of that. One of those obviously was, so they beat the Hawks in a barn burner, and I did the breakdown of that one, and I had said the Hawks are officially ready to compete with the best teams in the East. And of course, then they thumped them the next game they played, which was what I was looking forward to see. And that was with both Kyrie and KD playing together. So maybe I was a little premature in anointing the Nets the cream of the crop, but I don't know. I mean, I still see when I see the Nets play, when it's clicking, that's all I need to know is that they have what they need. Now, let's not forget, they just lost a starter. Now, this wasn't even a season where they had a lot of time to get adjusted anyway. But now you take out a starter who's been playing, 28, 29 minutes, whatever he's been playing. That's hard to deal with, and that's going to take some adjustment as it is and figure out, okay, what's the hierarchy here now? to replace Spencer Dinwiddie's play, which is really had been important for them on a lot of different levels. On both sides of the floor. So that's why you mentioned, Daniel mentioned like maybe they'll pick up a guy like George Hill. There's no question they're on the wires right now trying to find a guard that can come in, but George Hill isn't quite that same kind of guy. Spencer Dinwiddie's a little bit bigger, but he can, still defend a little bit. He can shoot, from the three. So that would be something that would be, useful for them. But they might want to go a little bit bigger. We'll see if they want to try and find someone who's a little bit more of a tweener that can play like 2 or 3 as well. So, but that's the growing pains of losing a starter and then also, having to figure that out. But, I'm not worried at all about the Nets, and I still feel like they're just going to get that straightened out pretty quickly. And then we'll go from there. Let's see here. That was the Nets. Okay, so the Sixers. They've done better recently. I was a little bit concerned from them because I just felt like something was missing. Something's always missing with me anyway when I'm watching them. I just don't know. It's hard for me to put my finger on, other than to say over and over again that I don't know if the pairing of the Simmons and the Embiid thing is ultimately going to work. But so they've won. They're 5-1. And so here's who they've beaten: the Wizards, who are really in the midst of a lousy year right now; the Knicks, who are okay. They beat the Cavs, who have also been a little bit surprising, and they just beat the Hawks. By the way, the Hawks had a 15-point lead. I started to look at that footage to say, how do they turn this thing around? And guess who? Larry Nance, and he probably won't even show up in the box score. But it's Larry Nance is the guy who, as a eighth guy on a really good team, could really help you. Eighth, ninth guy, whatever. And he's just going to kind of, toil in obscurity in Cleveland for now. But Larry Nance comes in and makes a bunch of plays on both ends of the floor. Extra pass, makes a play some defense, grabs a rebound or two, energy, all those things turn the game around. They went on a big run at the end of the third quarter and took over that game. But I don't think they're going to be appreciably better than they were last year. They beat the Raptors, though. Back to talking about the Sixers. They beat the Raptors, who are, again, they're struggling too, and that's worthy of a video. And they beat the Magic, who had also surprisingly started out well. And they've done this before. They've started out well and then kind of quickly became not a very good team. And they beat the Hornets. So not that exciting. They got the Hornets again. So you have to imagine they're going to be 6-1 coming out of this. I got to see the Sixers against, better teams. They're playing the Hawks coming up soon in Atlanta. I don't know if there's much of a home court advantage anymore. Probably not, but still. But they got the Celtics coming up later on in January. So this schedule is going to be weird because they're playing games twice in back to back, the same team. So that's going to probably skew the results to some degree. And we're going to have to figure that out. Like in baseball, it's really hard to beat a team 3 times in a row, right? Like unless you're going crazy, because they get used to you after the first game. They know your tendencies. By the third game, it's not easy to win that third one in a row. They're only doing the 2 in a row, so it's not the same kind of impact like you see in baseball, but there might be some weird intrinsic effect on how these records are going to play out when you're playing teams. Now, you're going badly, right? You're a decent team, but you've been playing badly, losing some games, and all of a sudden the worst team in the league comes in at home, in your home, and you get to play them twice. Well, that's going to clear up a lot of things pretty quickly. It gives a boost to your record. It probably can maybe unlock a couple things that you've been looking to try and get going offensively, for instance, because the defense is maybe not as good, and that might be able to spur you on. So now this is the same effect we have seen in a regular season when they played a normal schedule at times. You'll get on a stretch where you play 2 or 3 of the worst teams in the league in a row, and that gets everything going. But this is wholly different, and I'm curious to see after 20, 30 games where we all shake out. I imagine eventually it does settle back down into some normalcy, but again, there could be some effect to that, and it's just weird. Again, what is time? What is this happening? What is this season? What is where are we going with this? What is the meaning of life? If anybody wants to answer that. Don't forget, if you're on the Locker Room app, you can join me and chop it up. It seemed to work. Daniel came in. Warren came in. If you do a request, I can chop it up with you. We got another 12 minutes before the show is over. Let's go back over to the live stream and see what we got going there, because we have some questions in the chat. Don't forget, if you want to get to the top of the top, you can always do a super chat, and that will get your question answered right away. And also, don't forget, I have this amazing membership I've launched, and I've got some great content in there already exclusively for members. And we're going to do watch parties, invite only. So that is going to be a really huge thing. So check it out. There's a button on the YouTube thing you'll see for join. Here's a question I'm grabbing out of the chat over on YouTube. Is Dinwiddie out for the season? And that's a good question. I think he probably is. And when the ACL is torn, that generally means you're out for the season. It's a shorter season as it is. Devastating news. Spencer is a friend of the breakdown, and really just awful to hear that happen to him. So I hope he can get back. You never know, but I would imagine they're going to be cautious with him and might want him to come back because he'd already hurt that knee before. The Pelicans have a lot of upside potential. They do. They do. I think I saw a question somewhere. Somebody was asking about Ingram. I mean, I think this is it for Ingram, which is amazing, right? That's all-star level stuff. If you look at Ingram's numbers, and we'll call them up real quick. You know, he's averaging 24 a game, and it's slightly up from last year. And he's got, but he's 5.3 assists per game, which is almost an assist more than last year. 6.8 rebounds, more rebounds this year. Let's go to the shooting percentages. That's always really important for him. 42% from three on over 6 a game, which is terrific. It's a jump from last year. So I think this is his ceiling, right? Which is great. His ceiling is an all-star, and that's what they need from him. Zion has not been as impactful as I kind of would expect him to be. But watch, he's averaging 40 points and whatever. I don't think he is though. Let's call his averages up real quick. So this year he's at 20, which is a little bit lower than it was last year in limited time. And he's shooting a little bit less than he was. Now, the question he has to be worried about is is the league getting a little bit more adjusted to him and his immense athletic ability, and can they tamp that down? So right now, I mean, he's averaging 1 assist per game versus the 2.1 he had last year in the small sample size. But I would imagine that right now he's averaging also a few less shots in more minutes. So that's an interesting development there, which kind of probably is what's creeping into my mind when I'm watching him. He's not as impactful as he was. Just could be early season, malaise, and he hasn't quite gotten going yet. We'll see. But I would imagine, I would have thought he could have averaged, 28, 29 points a game because it's so easy usually the way he plays, the shots he gets. And so, for instance, last year when he got to 22 and a half, but his per 36 minutes is 29 points per 36. And this year it's only 23. So something is up there. Stan Van Gundy's retooled the offense. They're looking for some guys, looking for better rotations. And that's going to take a little while. I'd imagine have to be patient with that. And we'll see. But I do like, I like Steven Adams with that team as well. There's something there. They just got to figure out the rotations a little bit better. Buzzer Beater, thank you so much. How can a fan learn defensive rotations? Well, one, watch my channel, and I don't do it enough, I guess. It's not as sexy as offense, but maybe I'll do a definitive video about rotations because it's pretty clear, and there are rules that every team follows, and because they make sense. So I'm going to make sure. So I'll do that. I'll put that down the list, and I'll do some sort of a rotation video explaining how they're supposed to work. It's because it's not even that. What are you talking about? On penetration off of a spot up, and then a pick and roll rotations. There's not that many different ones really at the NBA level. So I'll do that. So stay tuned for that, Buzzer Beater. Only one Beachom. Who looks worse, Steph or Steve Kerr? Whoa. Steph is just shooting poorly. Everything else is there. Everything else he's doing fine. So let's not go crazy yet. And why he's shooting, weird or so poorly is a good question. They released a video of him making, 150 shots in a row from the same corner. Now let's not forget, there are NBA players and shooters in college who undefended, standing still in the corner for a while, can make a whole bunch of shots in a row. It's what happens when you're at real time and defenders running at you and disrupting everything. And it looks like Steph is just sort of, he doesn't have his sea legs. He doesn't have his rhythm yet, the rhythm of timing when you're bringing the ball up, which used to be so dialed in for him during games, is not as dialed in. And it's a lot harder because, the team is a little bit off right now. Now, they lost having gotten Draymond back, but he's going to need games to get back into shape and getting back into rhythm. So let's just not freak out too much about either Kerr or Steph until we see 20 games, and then we'll see where they're at. But thank you so much. And Dane Dandy Go Kid. Thank you so much. Very, 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 what's the word I'm looking for? Generous. Thank you. Very generous super chat. Thank you. LaMelo is being ignored by the media. He's killing it right now, and you are right. His defense has been a revelation. He's the most impactful player next to Terry. Okay, thank you. Yes. Now, actually, let me go. Let's revisit LaMelo right now because he was really having a problem, putting the ball in the basket for a long time in the first 2 or 3 games. And I'm curious if that's changed. And it looks like maybe it has. He's actually averaging 11.5 points a game. And if we go to the game logs, let's just call that up because I lost track of Charlotte their last 3 games. But in his last 3 games, let's look at this. LaMelo Ball. Dallas in a blowout win. He had 22 points, 5 assists, 8 rebounds. Then, and he shot 7 for 10 from the field. Then he goes 6 for 14 from the field for 15 points, and then 4 for 12 for 13 against Philly. So definitely a much bigger uptick in production from the first 3 games. Although the second game wasn't too bad either, 5 for 10, 13 points, 1 assist only. But so he's perking up, and I think he will continue to. And again, he defensively, he's got such a high basketball IQ that you can't help but imagine that it's going to filter in and be able to make plays on that end, especially because he's got ability. He's not as explosively quick as his brother Alonzo, but he can overcome a little of that because he can get in the positional earlier and be smarter about it. So I think, didn't I say he's going to be an all-star? I think he has potential to be an all-star at this point. And in fact, we've always said this since he was a freshman in high school that he can be the best ball of them all. And certainly I have nothing to indicate he's not going to be on that trajectory. So thank you so much again, Dandy Go Kid. It's too generous, really, for the super chat. Let me go over here to the, let's see, anybody? So it's kind of quiet over here on the locker room app, and I'm suspecting that maybe it's because it's not telling me anymore that there people are wanting to be in here. Nonetheless, here we are. I'm sorry. One day we'll figure out locker room and figure out why it wants to behave so strangely for me only, I guess. Let's see here. Alfredo, if you mention the triangle offense, my eyeballs will certainly perk up. Alfredo says, so they're using the triangle, which eliminates necessity for a true point guard. Do they still need one? This is the Clippers. Listen, let's not go crazy. The Clippers aren't really running triangle offense. There's a couple of actions they use, and I've seen a little bit more of it more recently than I did when I did a video of them to look for it, because I really didn't see hardly any of it at all. That's a process that might continue to keep coming in. Blind Pig is one thing I have seen them run a couple times now, where they flash the forward across to the middle, and then when he catches the ball, the guard out top cuts back door, and they look for the handoff for him. Great way to relieve pressure. So let's see here. We got a few more minutes. We can wrap up in the last 4 minutes with, let's see here. LaMelo needs more burn. They need to get one of those points out of there. I'm guessing Graham, since Terry at least plays some D. Oh, I don't think that they're going to get rid of Devontae Graham. He seems to be like, the young, stud coming out who can really score it. They could probably handle playing those 3 together. I think it seems to me that the biggest conundrum for any NBA coach is rotations. Who to play with whom and when. It's alchemy, it's chemistry, there's math involved as well. It's not easy, and a lot of times the success on the team hinges on whether or not they solve that. And if they don't, then the team doesn't do nearly as well as it could have. And it's a fascinating thing. Thank you, Yanu X. I appreciate it. George Grouse. I only yesterday realized is in league news on the phone in NBA 2K. Thank you. Yes, I am in the NBA 2K somehow. I pop up there with people, and people are now texting me images of me interacting with them somehow on 2K, which is cool. Wait, I'm trying to keep the tomato out of my face from that prior segment he did on Ingram talking reckless. Ingram, what was the fine? I don't remember that. Really? I thought I was talking about Walker, Nickel. What else? What's his 3 names? That guy. That's the guy I thought I was talking about as far as Pelicans and taking bad shots. Let's see here. Mook Shi wants to know who the sexiest player in the NBA is right now. Let's get weird the last 2 minutes, shall we? It's probably like Kelly Oubre, right? That seems to turn most heads when he's playing and the ladies are out on the Twitters. Oh my goodness, Stefan Weeks, thank you so much. Or Stephen Weeks, excuse me. Please make Knicks video. This is the best basketball they have played since Melo. Yes, the Knicks are going to be out there really soon. I was going to talk about them actually earlier in the show. I watched that. That's who it is. Nickel, right? Alexander Walker is the guy who Stan does not want to play. So the Knicks. I tweeted it out yesterday, and let me see if I can quickly find it. Only because I want to make sure I didn't do it perfectly in the first time, but I'll call it up here so I can get it right this time. But if you're not following me on Twitter, you should. It's fun for the most time, unless you're calling me some horrible name. Let's see here. So here's what I thought. Quickly, Robinson, Toppin, and Knox, and then Barrett. I forgot to put Barrett in the first tweet. Doom on me. But those are the guys. Run with those guys. Don't even look at the win-loss column at all. This should not matter to you anyway at this point for this season. Everyone else, I think, on that team is expendable and just taking up spots for these guys to develop quicker. I love Robinson. I really do. I think he's a terrific player. He can block a lot of shots. He can finish at the rim. He's that prototypical rim runner guy who you'd want in your league to play your 25 minutes a game and have a real impact. Quickly is a starter now, and I like the way he plays at the right speed, so I'm encouraged by him. I like Knox. I've always liked him for some reason. I'm not even sure I can give you specific reasons. He seems like he might have worked on his game and gotten a little bit better this year. So we'll see. Keep your eye on that. Stick a pin in it. It's worth me quickly in the last minute here, just calling up his stats. I want to see just compared to last year if he's gotten any improvement. So not really, not from his rookie year, which was promising. But he's playing a little bit more minutes than he was last year, and he is, so there's not a lot of indication right now as far as finishing goes. But I like him. There's something about him. I can't really tell you if it's chemistry or what. And then you have Toppin. I think certainly we got to find out what we got in him as well. He's got ability. I'm not completely sold on him just yet, but let's see. And then Barrett too. There's something there as well. They at least owe him the opportunity. But a guy like Randall, I feel like it's just keeping them mediocre. Dennis Smith Jr. Those kind of guys. I think they're going to keep them just taking up too many minutes. And then giving some weird hope to Knicks fans that don't need it now. What they should be focusing in are those 5 players and riding with them and getting them developed quickly. So, well, awesome stuff. Thank you so much for being here and joining us on everything. And again, don't forget on Locker Room, I've been doing a show at least in the short term or for now on Wednesdays and Sundays, 11 a.m. Pacific time. So you can always join me there. You can chop it up and somehow request to be on the show, and I'll bring you in. And otherwise, every once in a while, we'll do on Twitter too if it works out that way. And don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in?